Welcome to The Sound of Leadership, exploring self-actualization through strength and song. Hosted by Michael Hewitt, professional opera singer, actor, and proven meathead. Michael excels at assisting you to forge an elite mindset, coupled with the communication skills to match, all while having fun doing so. If you're ready to find your voice and generate massive momentum while doing so, and have some fun as well, this is your podcast. Here's your host, Michael Hewitt.
What's going on, y'all? Today we are going to talk about the 9 speaking habits of powerful communicators. The reason why we're going to talk about this is because your voice tells the world who you are. And so when you can have agency in whether or not your voice is going to be an asset or a liability, then you have just given yourself a lot of leverage for getting what you want faster. The first habit of powerful communicators is that they have high vocal energy. When I was in the enterprise sales world, what I would see is an example of less than ideal high vocal energy, or what most people might conflate with high vocal energy would be the eager beaver approach. This is, for example, somebody fresh out of school, somebody new to their role, getting in contact with somebody who's older than they are, somebody who is higher up in their company's organization chart than the person who is reaching out or calling. And what it sounds like is the eager beaver. Hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. I'm so looking forward to this call. So not only is it very unconfident in terms of what is being said, but the vocal impression is evocative of a kid, a brown-nosy kid, which for about a million reasons pushes people away. It doesn't bring them into you. And what it's relying on, intentionally or unintentionally, is kitsch or pity to get what you want. So high vocal energy is not sounding like an overexcited kid, and it's not sounding cracked out. What vocal energy is, first and foremost, if nothing else, is it is the folds meeting and folds. I say folds because I like to get things right, even the small details. And in vocal pedagogy, folds is what most people is the correct term for vocal cords. Anyway, whatever. Folds meeting and airflow underneath them, we're keeping them together. The opposite of this, maybe not the exact opposite, but what this is not is vocal fry. Vocal fry is, see what I just did right there for one little bit of a syllable. Vocal fry is like this. This is where the folds are meeting, but there is no airflow underneath them. There's a couple of reasons I believe that people tend to do this endemically in our culture today. One of them being that everybody has a quality microphone right next to them at all times, be this AirPods or this the best microphone on the planet right here with the gain turned up. But also it's totally apathetic, again, intentionally or unintentionally. I can't express anything from here even if I wanted to. So it keeps us safe and non-committed, whatever. Just by eliminating vocal fry, you have high vocal energy. I'm not putting any more thought, any more intention, any more articulation behind my voice now than I am right here. But which of these makes you say, yeah, I want to be around this person. Yeah, I want to listen to them. Yeah, they have something to say. The high vocal energy version. So high vocal energy is, if nothing else, the elimination of vocal fry. The second speaking habit of powerful communicators is that they embrace pauses and silence. What does it look like to not embrace pause or silence? Well, it of course looks like filler words, but we'll get to filler words in a few skills or in a few habits. Not embracing pauses or silence might mean that you talk very, you repeat yourself, you again would use those filler words, that you jump in and interrupt people. One of the big tells is that you are listening to respond and listen to understand, we're going to get to in a second. But when you are not embracing pauses and silence, what it communicates is that you are of lower status and that you are fearful, that you are not confident. If you can embrace pauses and silence, what does that say? It says that you are okay with something being to be determined. It says that you are okay with letting somebody else sort out what they want to say. Or it says that you are okay with taking the time to figure out what it is that you would like to say and how you would like to say it. The first time that I heard Ruth Bader Ginsburg speak, I was blown away by how deliberate she was with everything that she said. Now, there could be a million reasons for this. Okay, not a million, but a handful of reasons for this. I'm sure she was well aware that everything that she ever said was going to go down on record somewhere. She has an incredible amount of mental horsepower and thus can articulate things and process much faster than most other people. Whatever the reason, you're left with the impression, whoa, this person is incredibly intelligent and incredibly thoughtful and incredibly deliberate, and it's congruent with what we already knew about her, which is that she is a Supreme Court, or she was a Supreme Court justice. This is a person who doesn't have to prove anything. They are, depending on how you look at it, I guess there is no other way to look at it. They're one of the most powerful people in the entire country, in the most powerful country in the world. So, all of the other digging and exploration and hypothesizing aside, one of the most powerful people in the most powerful country in the entire world embraces pauses and silence. Major habit of a powerful communicator. Number 3, powerful communicators get to the point. Now, they can get to the point in a couple of ways. They could just go, bam, answer the question directly, say exactly what they mean to say. Or if they want to, for whatever reason, take some time, set up this frame, create a nice picture, they might tell us how they're going to get to the point and what point they're going to make is, and then say, and then announce that they're going to tell us a little story or something like that. But they get to the point and they always are relevant. So there's never rambling because they're okay with pauses and silence. And they get to the point. So even if they're saying a lot of words, all of those words have a pretty clear connectedness, congruence. I'm liking that word today. Congruence of thought. What they say is easy to follow. So even if they are answering a question directly, they're not saying just what's going to happen, but why we should care about it. In the sales world, this would be looked at as talking about features versus talking about benefits. I don't think that there is anything super black or white, except for maybe you don't just only want to talk about features. You always want to include the benefits. What is this going to do for you? That keeps people engaged. The next speaking habit of powerful communicators is that they listen to understand. Now, earlier I mentioned listening to respond. This listening to respond is related very much to embracing pauses and silence, because an inability to embrace pauses and silence indicates some kind of anxiety or lack of certainty in whoever is exhibiting it. It is tied to listening to respond. When you are listening to respond, you're doing a couple of things. You are just waiting for the next appropriate time for you to jump in, and you're not actually following what anybody is saying because you're thinking about yourself, and you're not in the present moment. How could you listen to understand if you're not in the present moment? If you're talking, if you and I are having a conversation and you say a couple of words and then I just go into my own head and I'm thinking whatever it is I could be thinking, most oftentimes what people are thinking is, what is a good question that I could ask here? What could I ask that's going to make them go, whoa, that's amazing. God, I've never been asked such a brilliant question before. You're so smart. Or what could I say that's going to be really funny? Because I want to be funny. This gets to one of the skills in the 7 skills of tonality, which is intention. The macro intention has got to be that you want people to win more than you want to be validated, told that you're so brilliant or told that you're so funny. And if you will just ask or say whatever is obvious, not only is it going to keep you in that moment listening to understand, but it's more often than not going to be the thing that is funny or the question or the statement that gets the, God, that is such a good question, or wow, that's a really good point. I never thought about that. So listening to understand naturally brings us to embracing pauses and silence. Embracing pauses and silence allows for us to formulate our thoughts to get to the point. And using high vocal energy as a default speaking habit is going to keep people engaged. So then we're looking at this conversation frame and have mentioned a couple of times sales. Well, in sales, and I like to think generally in any conversation, you want to get to some facts or you want to get to some specifics so that you can understand more completely. So, another speaking habit of powerful communicators is that they are able to get specific answers without interrogating. In the sales world, it can feel oftentimes, at least in the B2B software sales world, it can feel oftentimes like you are playing 20 questions with somebody who really doesn't want to be playing and just kind of has to be there, even though they've opted into being there. And that can make the dynamic really uncomfortable, and it makes the process filled with a lot more friction than it needs to be. When you're following a script, as many sales organizations provide for their reps, what the script tends to do is make it so that reps are listening to respond and trying to keep this conversation going down this track. I think about it like a train, down this track with no deviation or derailing allowed. But what if it's in that derailing and deviation that we actually find the information that we're looking for? Or if you are talking to somebody, again, this could be a social situation or a situation with family member or significant other, and you want to understand them, you can say something like, what's that look like? It's one of my favorite questions. What's that look like? What's working about that? What's not working about that? Now, this assumes that we are in the container, that they have checked the box of, I want to be helped. I like to, again, I definitely don't ask this in a sales conversation. Hey, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged here? Right? Imagine the cease. And everybody needs to be hugged and everybody needs to be heard. But, just imagine that. We're on a discovery call. I'm like, oh, this is happening. I'm like, oh, John, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged here? He's like, I want to be hugged. It would be kind of funny. I could almost see that happening. Anyway, we digress. So there is a time when you don't need to get that specific answer. This has definitely happened to me really everywhere in my life, but most notably was a relationship, like 10-ish years ago. And this woman was like, if I'm talking about something, I don't need to do that voice. She's like, if I'm talking about something, I'm expressing something, I don't need you to fix it. I just want you to hear me. I was like, what? On one hand, I was like, why would you talk about something if you don't want this problem solved? And then on the other hand, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, cool. So when you can get specific answers without interrogating, and it's the appropriate time to be getting specific answers, that is such a powerful communication skill. And again, it doesn't require a bunch of overthinking to ask a question that just prompts that. A question like, what's working about that? What's not working about that? What does that look like? Cues the brain into being like, oh, it looks like this. And then you'll get an example. You'll get something more specific. And then you can proceed from there to do whatever this person has asked you to do. And it doesn't feel like you are in a cell getting questioned by the police. Powerful communicators know what they want to say. So they're going to get to the point when they're responding to a question. But getting to the point means that they have an agenda. Not in a manipulative way. They have an agenda with their conversation. This is the micro intention in these skills of tonality. Resonance, articulation, imagination, mindset, intention. Skill number 5, subtext and stakes. The meta skill is wanting them to win more than you want to be validated. The micro is there's a specific action that you want somebody to take at the end of this conversation. And you also have to be receptive to whatever the specific action they want you to take. Hence the reason that you have to be listening to understand so that you can pick those cues up. So a powerful communicator enters into a conversation knowing what they want to get across, what they want the outcome to be. What that allows for is for you to have a lot more groundedness, a lot more certainty, for you to be a lot less reactive to any new information, perspective, etc., that is thrown at you. Knowing what you want keeps you grounded. Now, we mentioned it before, that pauses and silence and getting to the point and knowing what you want will really help with, but no filler words. Think about this. If I was throwing an or a like or a something like that, every other word, it's all you would hear. You couldn't focus on anything else other than my filler words. And I could have in between those filler words the most brilliant Pulitzer, Nobel Prize, Academy Award winning, you name it, content, ideas, brilliance. But all that's going to come across is guy uses a lot of filler words. Sounds like a stereotype of someone from the Valley in the late 90s. No filler words. And there's no way to train out filler words besides just getting aware of their use and getting comfortable with not using them, which means you're going to have to get comfortable embracing pauses and silence. That's it. Simple, not easy. Worth it? 100%. Now, the last habit of powerful communicators, at least that we're going to talk about here today, and this is the thing that makes this is the linchpin. This is what makes everything else click into place. Remember, individually, these are powerful. Altogether, they compound. And it's this last habit that locks everything else in and really accelerates it all forward. Powerful communicators come from a place of truth. No accident that this is called speaking habits of powerful communicators and not speaking habits of forceful communicators. I am a big fan of the book Power versus Force. Power equals truth, force equals falsehood. When you come from a place of truth, it changes your vibration. It changes everything about how you communicate. A person could have the exact same vocal tone, all of those 7 skills, or at least the ones that are somewhat literal, somewhat tangible, resonance. For example, if we were to put them behind one of those harmonic microphones or harmonic visualizers, we could have 2 people having the exact same harmonic output, reading the exact same words with the exact same delivery. But, and this is where I'm a big believer for all the things that artificial intelligence can do and will do, could do, there is never going to be a substitute for this kind of thing. And that is, the computer is not going to be able to pick it up. When you listen to these 2 people talk, one of them who is speaking from a place of truth and the other who is speaking from a place of falsehood, something about that person who is speaking from a place of truth, something about what they're saying, how they're saying it, everything about them is going to hit more deeply, is going to be more magnetic, is going to be more calming, evoke more trust than the person who is speaking from a place of falsehood. That doesn't mean that there won't be a percentage of people who will see them as equal, or who would actually say that the person who's speaking from the false place is their choice. If you read Power versus Force, this is explained in that a large percentage of the population is operating or is existing at a level of consciousness or calibration that is below the ability to see, acknowledge truth, or to be in it themselves. It doesn't mean that they're trapped there. It just means that they are more easily swayed by false. So when you come from a place of truth, that is the major that is the major linchpin that makes everything else work in terms of being received by others. But that's the most powerful driver. Dare I use it again? It's my favorite word in this current season of my life. That's the biggest potentiator for your conviction, is knowing that you're coming from a place of truth, which requires that you've been through something. You've accrued some wisdom. You know what you want to say because you've got something powerful that needs to be heard. You're okay with embracing pauses and silence because you're less fearful, you're less anxious because you've been through some stuff. You have looked at your beliefs, you've stress tested them, you've had to define who you are to yourself, and then you are comfortable bringing that to the world. If you want real conviction, real certainty, come from a place of truth. Now, this does take a lot of courage. And all of this requires clarity of thought. But if it was easy to be a powerful communicator, everyone would do it. And yes, there is a large element of this, which is unlearning what's unnatural. But these are all skills. Knowing yourself is a skill. Powerful communicators who come from a place of truth know themselves, and they don't rest on their laurels. They're willing to go to places of discomfort to stress test their beliefs, their habits, everything, in order to reach that place of certainty and conviction. And just like, say, fitness or singing or any other craft or practice, it's not something that you can achieve once and then you have it for life. You can get exposed to something once and then know that it is possible, or remember how it feels, or know what direction to head in or to head down in order to get back to that place. But in order to stay there, it requires daily discipline. Just my thoughts on the 9 speaking habits of power, or on, really, I should say, 9 of the speaking habits of powerful communicators. All right, y'all, if this was helpful for you, rate us, rate this podcast, leave a review, share it with your friends. Stuff does really help out. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is on the platform that you are listening to us on. And find me at Michael Hewitt23 on all social media platforms. All right, y'all, I'm getting out of here. Take it easy. Go forth and speak boldly. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Sound of Leadership. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with a friend, share it on social media, and don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe. And maybe leave a review too. No, seriously, that stuff really does matter. Give us 5 stars. If you've got any questions, comments, want to get in contact with me, at Michael Hewitt23 on all social media platforms. Now go forth and speak boldly.